People think surrendering to God means losing control, but what if surrendering to God was the best way and the easiest way to lose the fight that you're in? When I lived in Connecticut, I went to one of the greatest gyms. Love this gym called Underdog. And I knew the people for a long time, but I was new to jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu, if you've never done it, it's a little bit different than anything else. Might be comparable to wrestling. And there was a brown belt named Matt. Now, Matt was strong. He was quick. He was fast. But you wouldn't think that from the outside. Matt was a former wrestler and he had just experience. And he first called me my first match. He called me out. And, I went to do the match with Matt. I lost. But as I got a little bit better, I started applying more pressure to each match with Matt. And he would put me in positions that I could not get out of. And instead of like surrendering in jujitsu, you usually will double tap the person or the mat so they know, hey, I surrender, you won. The stronger I got and the quicker I got, the harder it was for me to surrender to Matt. So what happened one day changed changed how I saw Matt, changed how I saw surrendering to God in life. One day, Matt put me in a position that I could not get out of. My arms were behind me, my legs were somewhere else, and I couldn't get out of it, and I had to tap. Now, the thing that you would have thought is as soon as he got me in that position where I knew I couldn't get out of, I couldn't win, that I would have tapped. But no, I kept fighting, and ultimately it almost got to a point where he was telling me, go ahead and tap now. Like, I'm not even applying all pressure, Drew. Just go ahead and tap in. It almost got to a point, he's smart. It almost got to a point where I was going to let him go to the limit, do what you need to do because I'm not losing this match. I'm in control. Until I realized he put me in another position and I had to tap. What if the principle, I believe if I taught this in a principle, is the principle, I wrote this down. The longer you resist the inevitable, the more pain you experience. The more you resist the inevitable, the more pain you experience. I could have tapped earlier and just started a new round, but my ego was like, I'm not going to keep losing. I'm not going to keep getting beat by him. He was a brown belt. I was a white belt. In jiu-jitsu, it goes white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. With God, we sometimes do the same thing. God's like, hey, just go ahead and surrender or submit to God. And the Bible talks about that in James, submitting to God. It talks about resisting the devil, but then it talks about submitting to God. And God sometimes can put you in a position where He's like, I need you to surrender because this way that I'm taking you is better than what you think. It's better than what you currently feel because you feel you know it all. When the Bible talks about do not be wise in our own eyes, the Bible talks about trusting in the Lord with all of our heart and leaning not to our own understanding. And then it says, in all of your ways, acknowledge Him and He should direct your path. So God sometimes is like, hey, I'm not going to make you submit, but I can put you in a position where it makes you harder to go your own way because you've given your life to me or you would like to give your life to me. So what I learned was sometimes God has us purposely in a position where we have to submit sometimes our decisions, our will, our direction, our pace of life, and it's up to us if we want to keep fighting it. So what I learned with doing jujitsu with Matt was the first few times I just thought we were cool. The first few times I just thought he was trying to like flex and tell me how strong he was. Until one day I stopped and I asked him, I said, hey, how how come you always call me out? Like, how come you're always like beating up on me? And he said this and it changed everything. How I saw jujitsu, life, and how I saw surrendering to God. He said, I'm not picking on you. I'm showing you things to do. So when you go against somebody else who's maybe your equal, or you go against somebody else who is a lower belt or even the same belt, you know how to defend yourself. So the whole time I thought he was flexing until I realized he was teaching me defense. So every time I went in, I would go into a match with Matt. I loved it. I would lose all of them, but I would ask him, "How did I get in this position? How do I get out of this position?" And something he said that blew me away. Sometimes you have to lose the fight or make the other person feel that they're winning in order to get yourself back in a good position. Surrendering to God is winning. Surrendering to God, submitting to God is winning. I know submission has this nasty connotation, but submitting to God and submitting to God and surrendering to God is how you win. It's difficult because we like to know everything. We want to know the when, the how, the why. We want to know every detail. And I tell you this, God is not going to give you every detail of everything you do. He's not. If he did, there would be no reason for trust. There'd be no reason for you to keep coming to him and to keep believing him. And the older you get in your relationship, or the more mature you get in your relationship with God, you start to realize he's putting me in a position where I have to surrender. So I should go ahead and just surrender. You start realizing, like, hey, this is a fight I'm not going to win. And in jujitsu, I learned it going against different types of belts: white belts, black belts, brown belts, purple. I've had so many matches that taught me so many things about surrendering. It taught me about, hey, how do I not get myself in this position? But the main thing it taught me is surrendering isn't always losing, it's who you're surrendering to. Case in point, we have an online group called The Breakthrough. The people who are in the breakthrough, I'm their coach. They don't surrender to me in a way where they don't have any say so. They just say, hey, I'm going to submit and give up me trying to be right all the time about something that I'm not accomplishing. And I'm going to kind of yield to somebody else's guidance, somebody else's path, because they know where I'm at and where I want to go. So I'm going to yield to that. That's how surrendering looks with that. And we guide them in the group. The group costs less than 2 coffees per month. We guide them to a direction where they can get the result. But the people who usually fight back the most, they usually don't get the result because their will is not going to get them to where they want to be, or else they would be there. So my question for you is, what position is God putting you in that he's asking you to surrender? Surrender. What is that? What is God asking you to surrender? A decision, your will, your cadence, your old life, a lifestyle, a mindset? I would love to know what it is. And when you figure it out, drop a comment so we can talk. Be good. Be great.